You've been fairly tough on China on human rights issues and other things that they have been involved with in respect to Hong Kong and the new security law there. Do you have any hope that that China will ease up on its constraints on Hong Kong, or do you think that's a fait accompli?
David, I'm afraid it's a fait accompli. I hope I'm wrong about that, but everything that we have seen over the past year has indicated that Hong Kong is going to become nothing more than another communist-run city. That's most unfortunate. It had a special status. The Chinese Communist Party committed to that status for 50 years. They broke the promise about halfway through. Now the people of Hong Kong are living under threat from this national security law, which you referenced, where actions that they take pose the risk that they'll end up in jail. They've already had some of the people who were just doing simple acts of what we would consider our First Amendment right to protest. They've been put in jail. It's very telling too. There were a group of people who chose to flee Hong Kong, and they've now been imprisoned and tried inside of the mainland in China. That's a bad sign. We know what happens when countries begin to jail people who want to leave their country. It's very telling. We've seen this history. We saw this history in Europe when people close their borders, not from keeping people out, but keeping their own people in. I think that's very telling about the fragility of particular regimes and the threat that they feel from the fact that their people may ultimately decide their country's not the best place to live.
Now, you've been tough on the islands that China's been building in the South China Sea. Do you have any doubt that they are for military purposes only?
David, those islands are islands that have been built with the intent of controlling for the Chinese Communist Party to have control and capacity to influence shipping lanes all throughout, not only the South China Sea, but the East China Sea on around through the Indian Ocean as well. They are attempting to create, I talked about this region as being an effort by General Secretary Xi Jinping to create a Chinese empire in the sea. The United States should never permit that to happen. The Trump administration has worked very, very diligently with our friends and partners in the region to slow them down.
Now, China and the United States had a tough trade negotiations for over several years. The first phase has been completed. In hindsight, do you think we've gotten out of the first phase what we thought we would get, which is more Chinese purchases of American products and also more access to their market, or it really hasn't happened yet?
No, I think they will ultimately deliver on the commitments that they made in the phase one trade deal. Some of it was slowed a little bit by the fact that the global economy slowed down tremendously, but they have said all along they would, and we've seen indications that they intend to comply with those. The regret is that the big issues, the hard issues in the trade relationship between the United States and China have not been resolved. The issues about intellectual property theft, the intellectual about fairness and reciprocity, and the fundamental investment rules for a broad range of industries, the protection of assets and property that is American-owned property inside of China, those things that are central to making sure that we have a fair and balanced trade relationship with China, the Chinese Communist Party ultimately walked away from. That work remains to be done.